So the president, after his crazy speech last Thursday, the next day was asked about the MAGA comments that he made, about them being a threat to the democracy. Friday, or Thursday he said that. Friday he said, no, I don't think MAGA is a threat to democracy.
Mr. President, do you consider all Trump supporters to be a threat to the country? No, everyone.
Come on, look, guys. You keep trying to make that case. I don't consider any Trump supporter a threat to the country. I do think anyone who calls for the use of violence, fails to condemn violence when it's used, refuses to acknowledge when an election has been won, insists upon changing the way in which the rules you count votes. That is a threat to democracy. Democracy.
The very next day, then he did another rally, or not a rally, but a speech, where he said it again.
President Joe Biden doubled down on his criticism of what he calls MAGA Republicans on Monday, accusing them of putting democracy at stake.
This new group headed by the former president, the former defeated president, we found ourselves in a situation where we're either going to look forward or look backwards. And it's clear which way he wants to look. It's clear which way the new MAGA Republicans are. They're extreme. And democracy is really at stake.
Biden was trying to drum up voter turnout among union workers at Labor Day events in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. The two states are critical in November's midterm races, when his party's control of Congress will be hanging in the balance. Republicans have recently accused Biden of turning his back on large segments of the American public who voted Republican after a speech last week when Biden blasted Republicans devoted to former President Donald Trump's Make America Great Again agenda. However, earlier on Monday in Milwaukee, Biden had stressed that he was not smearing all of the GOP.
I want to be very clear up front. Not every Republican is a MAGA Republican. Not every Republican embraces that extreme ideology. I know because I've been able to work with mainstream Republicans my whole career. But the extreme MAGA Republicans in Congress have chosen to go backwards, full of anger, violence, hate, and division.
So he's going back and forth, and no one's holding him accountable. So yesterday, or was it today? Today is Tuesday. It was either Monday or Tuesday of this week, the following week, after he said it, then took it back, then said it again. Peter Doocy, the only journalist on the White House press corps, the only one, or at least the only one who will say anything, which makes him the only legitimate one. He asked press secretary, in 2016, you said...
In 2016,
I knew this
Trump
was coming.
stole an election.
I was waiting, Peter, when you were going to ask me that question.
Well, great. Here we go. You tweeted Trump stole an election. You tweeted Brian Kemp stole an election. If denying election results is extreme now, why wasn't
So
it then?
let's be really clear. That comparison that you made is just ridiculous. I have been.
Ridiculous?
Well, you're asking me a question.
Yes.
Let me answer it.
And you said it was ridiculous.
I was talking specifically at that time of what was happening with voting rights and what was in danger of voting rights. That's what I was speaking to at the time.
Now, mind you, she's doubled and tripled and quadrupled down on MAGA being a threat to the democracy for not accepting the election results, and for propagating the big lie. I think Jen Psaki before her said the same thing. So Peter Doocy says, hey, well, you said it was stolen. And she said, yeah, but that's not the same thing. I was talking about voters and taking away voters' rights, or some lie. Something that made absolutely no sense. So do you have to accept the election results without being a threat to democracy? Or can you just have an opinion? She had an opinion, it's legitimate. MAGA has opinion, it's a threat to the democracy of this country. Which one is it? And she's straight face, I knew you were gonna ask me this. And then he asked her this, and then she had no answer for it. If you knew he was gonna ask you, how are you not properly prepared to answer? Does that make you really, really bad at your job? Kamala Harris does this all the time, where the only logical question is to ask her something specific, and she's not ready for it. Like, oh my God, I can't believe they're asking me this. It's hilarious. You just were named the border czar. Have you been to the border? Huh? What? Oh, why are you asking me this question? I don't understand why you're asking this. I don't understand the question. I don't understand the relevance of the question. She's famous for that. No matter what you ask her, it's the most obvious question to be asked, and she's not ready to give an answer. So Jean-Pierre, or whatever her name is, what's her name? Corinne Bailey, Jean-Pierre, Scott Ray. Anyway, she goes, I knew you were gonna ask me this. It's a ridiculous question. So were you thinking ridiculous thoughts that led you to believe it was going to be asked? Why is it a ridiculous question if you anticipated it? And if it's a ridiculous question, why couldn't you answer it? Why wasn't it an extreme position in 2016, but it's an extreme position in 2022? And it's a threat to the democracy now. Why wasn't it then? It's a pretty simple question, especially if you knew you said, hey, Donald Trump stole the election. If you knew he stole the election, were you being an extremist, threat to the democracy of this country? Or were you just offering an opinion? I think you were just offering an opinion. I think in a country where you can say whatever you want, pretty much, there's nothing wrong with saying, I don't think this is legitimate, or I think this is on the up and up, or I don't care. She cared. She said the 2016 election was stolen. Hillary said the 2016 election was stolen.
I mean, if you're going to let Russia get away with what they did and are still doing, according to Christopher Wray, the current FBI director, who said that last week, they're in our election systems. We're worried about 2020, he said. So, hey, let's have a great power contest and let's get the Chinese in on the side of somebody else.
I believe he knows he's an illegitimate president.
You can run the best campaign. You can even become the nominee. And you can have the election stolen from you.
There were a lot of Democrats who said the 2016 election was stolen. But for some reason, they were not a threat to the democracy. And there's, of course, a horse is a horse. They're still going with the insurrection storyline. I'm coming to a new conspiracy theory where I think they went into Trump's home just to try and create more violence, if you will. And then that could justify them doing more of what they're doing with the overreach of government. That's just what I think. But more importantly, why wasn't she prepared for that question if she knew it was going to be asked and thought about it? Our president, why is he going back and forth on MAGA threat, MAGA no threat? Repeat the line. MAGA threat, MAGA no threat. What is wrong with him? I mean, we know what's wrong with him. But the speechwriters and the handlers are the ones doing this. They're the ones controlling this narrative. Why are they going back on it? Or did he accidentally go back on it and they didn't realize that he was going to say that and they forgot to cut off the mics like they normally do, or just hit the lights and escort everyone out? Is MAGA a threat or not? Because if you say yes, so is Corinne Bailey, Ray, Scott, Jean-Pierre. Pretty sure she's a threat also then. Are they going to raid her home? Are they going to arrest her for sedition? Are they going to call her a violent threat to the democracy of the United States? Just curious, just wondering. I saw it today and I got a good chuckle out of it. The news isn't going to cover it, of course. Unless you're watching Fox, who everyone dismisses, but they're the best source of television news out there right now. Because they're going to give you both sides, whether you think they are or not. They are. I don't watch them because I just don't like them. I don't like how they handled the election. I don't like the dismissiveness of their entire audience. If their audience wants questions, I believe they should at least try to seek answers. And if they don't, then we'll find somewhere else to get our news. That's what I think. That's my opinion. But I would like to know where we're going, where we're headed. If some people can say things and they're legitimate, other people can say the exact same things, just flip it on who was the offending party, and they need to have their homes raided and are enemies of the state and are traitors to the country. I think we should think about that because it's really, really, really pushing a line. And as the Democrats and the leftists and the liberals, notice I separate the three, as all of them celebrate what happened with Trump and what's happening in their current state of power, what they're celebrating is really dangerous. And they're only in power for 2-3 more months. So I think they should reconsider what they're doing and their positions, because it's about to flip. And then what you gonna do? They're putting out all these fake polls now saying Biden's surging, and Biden's increasing popularity all of a sudden, which is a lie. It's a lie. And it's a clear lie. I mean, it's pretty obvious. This has nothing to do with popularity. This has to do with the student loan forgiveness that's probably not going to be able to be put through because of the it's going to be fought. You can't just spend money that way. The executive branch doesn't have power to do that. They have power to delay, as Nancy Pelosi said.
People think that the President of the United States, is this more on the subject than you ever want to know? Well, you'll let me know. People think that the President of the United States has the power for debt forgiveness. He does not. He can postpone, he can delay, but he does not have that power. That has to be an act of Congress.
Using the authority Congress granted the Department of Education, we will forgive $10,000 in outstanding federal student loans. In addition, students who come from low-income families, which allowed them to qualify to receive a Pell Grant, will have their debt reduced $20,000.
The executive branch cannot make new laws when it comes to spending money, unless they're declaring a state of emergency, which he tried to use COVID as a through line to authorizing student loan debt forgiveness, which I don't know how you can do that, but they did it. We'll see if it lasts. But just know this, the end goal is to make Republicans look bad. So when it doesn't work and they start blaming Republicans, you need to see through that. Not that I care about Republicans, but you need to see through the deception in that. Because that's what it's really about. They're not really trying to pass anything. They've had the majority in the Senate, in the House, and they have the presidency. and they still can't get anything done. It's not that they can't, they're not getting anything done. Because that's what the government does. They're terrible at actually getting things done. So what do? They just blame the other side every time. That's what they do. So that's what they're doing. When he said in his speech, Republicans are obstructing, they have no power to do so. Zero. Now, Joe Manchin can. He can go back and forth and waver and hold them up, but they've had the Democrats have had full power this whole time since he got in office. So what he's saying makes no sense. They can't obstruct. Your own side has, I think it's Kyrsten Sinema out of Arizona, and Joe Manchin, who is the reason they got through their, whatever that bill is, the Inflation Recovery Act or Rehabilitation Act. Whatever that BS was, he's the reason why they got it through. If not for him, and he's a Democrat, if not for him, they're not getting anything through. So while they're fighting with their own side, they're claiming that Republicans are the ones obstructing. That doesn't even make any sense. They just want Republicans to vote with them. And when they don't, that's obstruction. So what do you call every bill that a Republican administration tries to pass and Democrats say no to? Obstruction? Or you just don't agree with that as a means to getting certain results?
You hear some of my friends in the other team talking about political violence and how it's necessary. Think about this now. Did any of you think, even as old as I am, you've ever been in an election where we talk about it's appropriate to use force, political violence in America? It's never appropriate. Never, period. Never, never, never. No one should be encouraged to use political violence.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
When they go low, we kick them.
How do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck?
The biggest terror threat in this country is white men, most of them radicalized right up to the right.
I thought he should have punched him in the face. I said, even if you lost, he insulted your wife.
Yes.
He came down the escalator and called Mexicans rapists and murderers. He said, well, what do you think I should have done? I said, I think you should have punched him in the face and then gotten out of the race. You would have been a hero.
I'd like to punch him in the face.
I said if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
Punch some people in the face!
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
Look as his character is stabbed to death.
Where is John Wilkes Booth when you need him?
That's it right there, pull it up.
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
A Missouri state senator is under investigation by the Secret Service after saying she hopes President Trump is assassinated.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
And sadly, the domestic enemies to our voting system and our honoring our Constitution are right at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. And that should be, everyone should take note of that on both levels, that this isn't, they're not going to let up, and they should not.
If you think we're rallying now, you ain't seen nothing yet.
So, as long as you're on the left, you can literally riot in the streets. You can destroy cities. You can cause tens of billions, if not more, dollars worth of damage to cities. You can blow up police cars. You can attack actual police. You can murder people. You can declare certain sections of cities as your own, as government-free zones. What did CHAZ stand for? I can't remember what that stood for.
I want my son to see that everybody, out here cares about him and his life.
We're here because Black Lives Matter, and the Black community has suffered long enough.
This also is our building, as we paid for this, and we paid for their works, and everything that they do is supposed to benefit the people.
We're going to have stronger police forces because that's what you need. In Minneapolis, they went through 3 nights of hell, and then I was insistent on having the National Guard go in and do their work. It was like a miracle. It just, everything stopped. And I'll never forget the scene. It's not supposed to be a beautiful scene, but to me it was, after you watch policemen running out of a police precinct.
The best fighters, the foremost thinkers of this movement
have in order to help pull us together.
Lawfully gathering and expressing First Amendment rights, demanding we do better as a society, and providing true equity for communities of color is not terrorism. It is patriotism.
I would love to see this Seattle Police Department be turned into a youth center.
Please, we need people to be here at night when it's dark, when it's raining.
What happens when no one's here and then they just clear the road and it goes back to normal? Then it defeats the purpose, and they win. They can come back and get into their precinct that they just closed down. We wanted to say closed down forever, so we're gonna stand out here forever.
You can just do whatever you want. You can tear down monuments and statues all over the country. You can destroy public property, buildings. That's okay because you're on the left. When the right did it one time, and they shouldn't have done it, but they did it to the Capitol. My question was, at that time, what did you expect? What did you expect was going to happen? What were your expectations? After 2020, and Nancy Pelosi saying, oh, people are going to do what people do.
Respectfully, shouldn't that be done by a commission or the city council, not a mob in the middle of the night throwing it into the harbor?
People will do what they do. I do think that from a safety standpoint, it would be a good idea to have it taken down if the community doesn't want it. I don't know that it has to be a commission.
So you're for law enforcement, and the right is no longer for law enforcement, according to you. And then you pass an unlawful, it's not even an executive order, it's just a declaration. So are you for law? Are you not for law? Your son breaks the law regularly. He's literally a career criminal because he's made a career off of things he's not qualified for, and he's made millions of dollars. Are you for law enforcement and the rule of law? Every day it's something different. They just waffle back and forth. And the media's like, yeah, the law. It's pretty incredible.